Firstly, welcome all. Welcome to the Qubit 11GR2 Quick Start Pilots webinar. Firstly, my name is Andrew Hayes and I'm the Technical Director of Qubit Consulting, and I'll be your host for today's call. On the Qubit side, we also have another three of my colleagues. John Mustak, our Business Development Manager, plus also two of our architects, Chris Race and Francis Verboom, currently working on a large government telco project that we're doing, but they've also separately run some banking and finance projects with the same technology set. So just some logistics before we begin. The talk will take about 15 minutes for the main presentation. We'll take some questions with any time remaining. If you would like to enter some questions into the GoToMeeting control panel, that's on the left-hand side of my screen, but on your screen, we'll draw from them when we get to them. Okay, let's start. So, why are we here? Well, that's what I'm here to tell you. So, identity and access management is actually a fairly complex set of problems. My colleague John Jones describes identity and access management as giving the right people access to the right things at the right time. I personally think this is a great statement when introducing people to the topic. You can discuss any aspect of identity and access management through the lens of this one statement. What we're going to talk about today is how Qubit can assist your teams deliver those right things to the right people at the right time as quickly as possible. More than this, we'll assist you with the tools to prove your approach back up to your respective governance boards. Qubit is offering a number of short fixed price projects based on our experience delivering successful projects with the Oracle 11GR2 Identity and Access Suite. The pilots each focus on a single aspect of identity and access management: social access management, mobile access management, privileged access management, and identity governance. I'll go into details of what each pilot contains later in the talk. These pilots we're anticipating can be used to train your architecture and implementation teams, or you can use these pilots to evaluate the Oracle Suite in situ prior to a large program of work, or both. So hi, welcome. Sorry, I'll just quickly break for a second. Welcome to the people who've just joined. We'll have about a 15-minute chat, and then we'll sort of run through and take your questions if you need to. Just stick them into the GoToMeeting console on the side of your screen. So the pilots that I was talking about, what are we offering with these pilots? We want to basically provide you with a virtual machine, the Oracle Suite pre-installed and configured. Ideally, we would integrate this VM into your UAT or dev environment, integrating with your systems, essentially using your data and giving you a concrete example of the suite solving your problems. Depending on the VM, integration into the environment will, firstly, provide a clear view of the Oracle software strengths and weaknesses. Secondly, enable discussion of future extension points and opportunities that the software brings to you. And thirdly, it'll show you how you can solve problems such as reducing your BAU spend or enforcing your organization's identity and access governance policies. But what's in these pilots? Each pilot basically provides you what I've written on this slide. It's a pre-configured VM integrated into your systems or data, a runbook describing how we built the VM and configured the stack, plus a roadmap describing how you could implement a program of work to roll this out if you want to broaden it into your environment. If this sounds good to you, then what would a pilot project look like? A pilot project is a 3-week engagement with 4 main activities. We'd kick this thing off with a workshop. We would scope out what we're attempting to do, set expectations with your staff, we'd review your environment, integration points, and we'd go through any technical difficulties up front that are known. We'd then follow through with an implementation. We take that data and implement it for you. And then at the very end, we'd document and write up our experience, capture any issues with the engagement and how we resolve them, and then provide you with a roadmap as to how you'd move forward to the next step if you wanted to broaden this out. At the very end of the engagement, there'd be a quick presentation back to your team, and that would be very much more like a workshop format event. We would present to you the engagement, what we encountered, and give a chance for questions and answers. Okay, dependencies though. For this pilot to be a success, there will be an impact on your team. Okay, up front, we would need access to your architecture group. This is very much during the establishment meeting. Make sure that we have a clear view of what problems are important to you, and make sure that we can feed something back that makes sense. During the engagement, we'll need access to your technical staff. This is just to simply answer questions and provide guidance as required. Environment access. We'll also need a place to put the VM. So ideally some corner of your, I don't know, some corner of your operational environment where we can plug a VM in. It's not mandatory, but it would add value, we think, to do something real with your systems. And fourthly, for the PM side, we need someone to be able to talk to if anything goes wrong, so we can make a request, chase up some firewall access, coordinate across teams, that sort of thing. So, what pilots are on offer? Let me get into the detail of those for you. Our first one is social or federated access management, essentially allowing external identities to use your systems. Federated authentication allows customers to interact with your systems using an existing account from another provider. Facebook is the one that pops up most often, simply because a lot of people have access to that. But it also covers Twitter, LinkedIn, Google. Other companies provide identities of their own. From our perspective, or from customers' perspective, they love this type of authentication. It's very simple, very lightweight, and it allows them to get engaged quickly. They don't have to go through a separate registration process on every single site. From the business's point of view, federated authentication is also great, especially for low-risk systems, to establish a contact with clients that either previously haven't gotten engaged and/or external users who are looked on as potential clients. I mentioned low risk in there. Using external identities means trusting that the identity provider's registration processes, for things like Facebook, where I have friends on my list named the Baron and Mayor Bear, I probably wouldn't trust these identities with bank account details. What we have seen, though, the sweet spot for this type of technology is utilizing a social authentication to access low-risk things such as crowdsourced support forums. In this particular case, we've seen two separate clients want to implement this type of product. What they're doing is they're forcing users to authenticate to post or ask a question or comment on someone else's question. Public access is perfectly acceptable for just reading through the backlog, so it acts as a combination support forum and knowledge base. This works pretty well. You've got lowly trusted identities that you can then allow some interaction with your systems. You've got moderators who can keep things fairly well under control, and it's a reasonable balance between the trust that you assert this relationship, the trust that you give this relationship, trust that you give this identity. Let me spit the right word out. The trust that you give the right identity, as opposed to the functionality that you're exposing for them. Once you have this social relationship in place, though, you have a connection to that user, which is of value to your sales team. More, you can provide a mechanism to link that connection to some unique data within your organization. You can convert the identity from an untrusted to a trusted account. Often that's something as simple as a bill number to say, yes, actually, this Facebook ID is really our identity that we have in our billing system. So in our social pilot, we'll provide a working example of these interactions for you. We'll provide a test application that will illustrate how to authenticate using an external identity such as a Facebook ID. We'll integrate these identities into your applications. Plus, we will also show you how you might promote this low trust relationship through to a trusted relationship. At the end of the pilot, if we have access to your dev teams, we can walk them through how they might provide personalization on a previously public web property using the authenticated user data. We can also start the access management discussion if desired, allowing users to access parts of their site based on some attribute. Unfortunately, for that type of problem, though, to be starting the discussion, we wouldn't be able to fit in some real implementation within the bounds of a pilot project. Our second offering is around mobile access management. Mobile phones are not particularly new for web development, or certainly browser-based web development, but they are new for companies wanting to build and deploy native applications. Once teams start talking about native apps, one of the first conversations is around security, allowing these applications to securely access corporate services and systems. Oracle, with their 11GR2 product set, provides an iOS SDK, which abstracts authentication and provides mobile app SSO. There's currently no Android equivalent to this, but I understand that this is coming in a future release. Beyond the SDKs themselves, however, the Oracle product suite offers equivalent capabilities via well-defined web services should you wish to roll your own client library. In the pilot that we're offering in this space, we will provide an iOS example of native authentication and mobile SSO for you. We will provide 2 test applications that will authenticate and share authentication state. We will take this example code and we will work with one of your applications. We will show your dev team how the SDK can be incorporated into their code. This pilot, independently of solving the mobile problem, has a number of interesting SOA discussions that we could have after the engagement is complete, simply because the Oracle Enterprise Gateway product is installed as part of the pilot. This product does a lot more than simply secure mobile web services, but unfortunately I really don't have time on this talk to go into a lot of detail. Privileged access management. From our perspective, it's ironic, but the accounts providing the most access are typically the least controlled. Root and administrator passwords are typically stored in some low-tech repository, such as a spreadsheet, maybe encrypted if you're lucky, that are by design hard to access and manage. This difficulty in accessing passwords leads to project slowdowns. There's an inherent delay in getting privileged access, and there's often no traceability of who had this privileged access at which time when you're trying to track down problems. I'll just give you a quick anecdote, actually. And one of the simple things that affects us all the time with one of our larger clients, we maintain a support contract. And our team is on the to-doers list. In Unix, the to-doers list is a list of accounts that can bootstrap up to root as required. One of the problems, the other part of the process that I have to describe to you to make for this story to make sense is that we have an L2 team that's also in the same account who are responsible for ensuring that these accounts are locked down. So they'll periodically go through and ensure that people who are on the to-doers list are revoked periodically, and you have to re-request this access. It's a process that works, but the failing is that the notification back to us that our access has gone away. This impacts us when we are trying to be helpful to our client. You know, if there's a problem of the day, they'll get us involved. We'll say, yep, no problems. One of our consultants will come in, get on, log into their system, and then we'll find that this access is gone. Immediately, there's a half-day cost incurred in getting involved and helping them out. And it's not as if that we're less special than their own staff. This happens to them as well. So there's a real problem around notifications and understanding who has access to the system at any given point in time. Anyway, I'll finish up with that anecdote. So Oracle's Privileged Access Manager product actually solves this problem. And what it does is it provides you a console where you can access a password for a given system. That's an operating system, database, directory. There are a number on that list. But it allows you to check in and check out access. So it becomes a business problem under the control of the business users and not an L2 team with a guy who has super user account buried in a back room somewhere. It makes it a business operation to take this password, to give access to the different teams, not a technical problem. Okay, so our use case where we will demonstrate this for you, we'll basically provide a VM which we want to integrate into, let's say, 2 different types of technology within your environment, an operating system, an Active Directory instance that you may have, or a database if that's more appropriate. Sorry, rule number 1 is turn your phone off when you're in a webinar. Okay, once integrated, we're basically going to walk you through how you can manage password issuance day to day. And there are 3 separate cases that we'll walk you through here. The standard case, where you check in and check out a password, plus also have that request approved through a well-defined authorization chain. The delegated case, which is exactly the same as the first case I've mentioned, the standard case, but it's where you delegate your authority to appear when you might go on leave. And the third case is what Oracle refers to as the break glass case, where you have an emergency that needs to be dealt with right now. You need to provide access out to a team. You still need the audit capabilities to see who's done what, but you need to have access it, and you need to circumvent the standard authorization process. And we'll take you through how that works. Okay, our 4th and final offering is in the governance space. So we tend to describe identity governance in terms of 4 pillars. Okay, pillar 1 involves the definition and management of role life cycles, handling assignments and revocation of roles as a user moves through different positions within your organization. Pillar 2 involves user and role certification, where your managers will state that the staff that they are managing are still as listed, plus also they will state that the users have appropriate permissions or appropriate entitlements for their role. Pillar 3 involves role mining, so not putting aside for one moment what should be there, but understanding what you do have in your system. Okay, a quick aside on that single point. At Qubit, we tend to promote a role mining exercise as something you should do at the start of any of these type of engagements. It's useful if you are heading down the path of developing a formal role model. And it's also, if you are heading down the path of generating a formal role model, it's useful to understand what's currently in your system, but also as a standalone exercise to ensure that the guy you fired 3 months ago will be, doesn't have access to production anymore, that sort of thing. Anyway, back on the slides. Pillar 4 involves the audit of roles to prevent entitlement clashes for your GRC programs. This is the segregation of duties problem. An example of which would be to ensure that a single person in accounts cannot both raise and also approve purchase orders. So mutually exclusive roles is what I'm trying to cover there. Okay, so the use case. Our offering in the governance space will be to showcase the ability of the Oracle Identity Analytics product set. We will perform a role mining exercise for you, processing a subset of your user data, and then we'll report back to you what we've found. This report could be used to see the formal role definition exercise if you're already talking about heading down that path, or you can use it to simply flag problematic entitlements, like that guy who fired the previous couple of months that I mentioned in the previous slide. Okay, just wrapping up. This is the final slide that we've got for the talk. We've put together a slide which shows in graphical form how these offerings fit together. I decided I needed a graphic because no presentation is complete without one. I think it's a rule somewhere.